What's up, everybody? Shawn back here with another live Live to Roll. We got a fun one today. It's the week of 420 this week, so we're going to talk some cannabis and alternative medicines.
Yeah,
So let's get into a little bit of intros, and then we'll get right into hanging out and talking. I'm Shawn. Like I said, I'm a C5, C6 quadriplegic from a snowboarding accident 19 years ago now. Tom, go for it, man.
what's up, everybody? It's your favorite quad of the Chon, Tom Conaway. I'm a C6B quadriplegic for the last 25 years, and a regular user of medicinal recreational cannabis, even a little bit of psilocybin here and there, but we'll talk about that later in the show. Lizzie, you mind introducing yourself for us real quick?
Sure. I'm Lizzie. I'm from Colorado. I'm a T5, T6. I just passed my fourth year, like last week.
Well,
Uh,
Um,
happy
yeah, happy
Life Day.
Life Day.
It's a big one for a lot of us, especially a few years out. It can be for real.
yeah, and I'm a regular cannabis smoker,
Sweet.
and
Uh,
every
well,
once in
thank
a
you so
while.
much. Thank you so much for joining us. You guys may have caught Lizzie on the Lady Show with Brianna before, but we're really stoked to have her on today. So thank you so much for joining us. And our last, and certainly not least, guest, Mr. Ken Womack, who is always hanging out in the chat. You might introducing yourself for us?
Yep, I'm Ken Womack, C5, C6 incomplete. Um, been quad 29 years
Nice.
from Northern California.
Yeah, and Ken is an
Yeah.
awesome active member of the spinal cord injury community, rugby player, very inspiring individual for someone who's been living the quad life for a hot minute and doing it very successfully, at least in my opinion. So we appreciate you having you on the show today to share your knowledge and your expertise on all things quadriplegic, but particularly
Right,
cannabis and psilocybin. Let's go.
right.
Um, we're just gonna, I guess, maybe go around and just kind of talk about our usage of said substances. And just to kind of give a little precursor to this, not promoting anybody do any of this stuff. This is all very personal decision. We're going to certainly talk about the benefits of cannabis, which there are many for individuals with spinal cord injuries. But I would be lying if I said I didn't use cannabis recreational from time to time. It's legal in the state of California and in Colorado and many other places throughout the U.S. So just use that your own devices. Please be mindful and safe. Whenever using any substance, and it's always okay to mention it to your doctor too if you are worried about potential respiratory effects, other side effects, or anything like that. It doesn't hurt to be safe and be okay. So that's just a little disclaimer at the beginning for everybody. And we really appreciate you joining us. If anybody wants to roll up, spark up, now is the time. This is the show to do it. So it's all good. We're going to start with the main man of the show, Shawn. You have been pretty public about your cannabis use. Maybe you just want to tell us about your experience with it, how long you've been smoking, some of the benefits you find from it.
Yeah, for sure, man. So yeah, I've been smoking even since before my injury. I didn't. I started when I was like 19 or 20. I wasn't like a young smoker, but I started a little bit once I was like snowboarding and kind of got into that like life and just
That
like using it
culture.
recreationally before my injury. And then after my injury, I actually kind of tried to stop for a little bit when I was in the hospital. I wasn't sure if I should, like wanted to listen to the doctors. But then after about 6 weeks into my injury, I tried it once, and like the benefits to my body were unbelievable. Like I couldn't believe how much better I felt after smoking than I had the previous 6 weeks of my injury, like being in the hospital. Um, and it just made all the difference. And from that point on, I kind of just realized that it was going to be good for me, and it relieves my spasticity. I have so much tone in my body, like it's just a ton of constant muscle tone where my muscles may not kick all the time, but they're just like tight. The muscles just stay tight. And smoking almost instantly releases that tension. It's like it's crazy. It's the sense of relief that goes through my body when I do smoke. Um, and then edibles, I've found edibles for me, I use at night because I can't smoke through the night usually, but that's like how I medicate through the night, and that's how I control my spasticity. So for the day, I'll smoke, vape a little bit, and then once it gets to nighttime, I do some gummies, edibles before bed, and that's pretty much like my daily use. I would say 75% of it is medical, and then there is like definitely a recreational aspect for sure. I do enjoy the relaxation, the relief that it gives me. Lets my mind shut down a little bit too, because
Well,
uh,
we're going to talk
yeah.
about that a little bit with like psilocybin as well. I think there's a lot of like benefits to potentially that mental aspect of it, in that like a lot of people tend to judge the psychoactive element of cannabis, and that like you're just smoking it to get high. I think it could be of a significant benefit to a lot of people, especially dealing with difficult situations, difficult scenarios. I mean, anybody who lives with spinal cord injury knows that we face obstacles day in and day out. And I think the mental component of that can certainly be soothed or assisted, in like getting through some of these more difficult situations. It makes relaxing, chilling out a little bit, allow your mind to um, look at it maybe with some different perspective, versus just sitting there frustrated and having a hard time. At least that's been my experience with it. We're going to talk about that a little bit more with mushrooms too later in the show. But if it's okay, now I'm gonna put Lizzie on the spot. Do you mind talking to us a little bit about your cannabis use? Did you smoke before you were injured?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I smoked before my injury. I was an on and off smoker. When I was able bodied, I'd smoke every like once in a while. But when I was in rehab, I didn't smoke while I was there. I kind of waited until I discharged.
yeah,
Um, but once I got home, I was like heavy on like the CBD and THC. Just the relief it gave because my hardware sticks out a lot just because I'm so petite. So
Mm,
it rubs on the back of my chair all the time and it hurts. Like
you're talking about like a spinal fusion, like rods.
yeah, I got like 8 screws. So two of the bottom ones hit the edge of my chair
oh,
ish and so um like just smoking it relieves just that pain alone because that's unbearable if I don't smoke. Like I would be sitting here crying if I didn't smoke just because that pain just hurts so much. And then on top of that, I got kids, so it's just like I don't really got time to really deal with all the nerve pain stuff. I'm always on the go.
Yeah,
So it does
that,
help that mental aspect of being like in different scenarios and just like, what do I do? Because it's hard being disabled, and then I gotta like, right, I'm on mommy mode all the time.
yeah, yeah. And I don't know. I think people use a lot of different stuff, whether it be caffeine or other similar substances to get through their day and to give them like that push, that boost, or either take the edge off to allow them to have the energy to continue to stay active and keep pushing. I mean, I certainly know that I've had many instances where like I wake up, I got a shit ton of stuff to do. My body's freaking out. I have super high blood pressure, super crazy spasms, mild AD. I'll smoke. I'm good. My body chills out. My bladder calms down. My legs cool down. And then the rest of the day, I can just hit it. Like now I'm good to go because it doesn't slow me down. It actually enables me to function because it makes the stuff that's really inhibiting me, not inhibit me as much. So
Yeah.
super important aspect of it. I do want to ask any differences before or after the injury in terms of utilizing like cannabis, like how it makes you feel, body
Oh,
effects.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I don't think I don't get like the high before where I'd probably be sitting here in the corner giggling while you guys talk the whole
Yeah.
time. Like that's what I'd be doing before. Total giggle box. But now it's like you say, right? I'm functional. It gives me energy to deal with like all the stuff that I deal with on the inside, like nerve pain, inflammation, like whatever the case may be for the day.
And thank
And
you.
it's noticeable too. Like recently, I took a little tolerance break and I didn't smoke for like 3.5 days, and I was just like a zombie. They're like, "What's wrong with you?" And it's just like, I don't feel good. I don't got energy. Like my body hurts, right? But it's like as soon as I did get um my cousin smoked me up, and as soon as I smoked up, it was like when you give a flower that's wilting water, it just perked up, and I'm like, "Hey guys, how's it going? I'm back."
It
Yeah.
is a miracle drug.
Um, thank you so much, Lizzie. We're going to go back to you. I actually have some points that I kind of want to touch on, but I don't want to forget about our good friend Ken either. So I'm going to toss it to you, Ken. Could you maybe just talk to us a little bit about your personal experience with cannabis? If it has any benefits for you, what those are, if they're similar to what we've said?
So yeah, like I started young, probably like 13, 14, smoking marijuana. I was just using it recreational, you know what I mean, with the friends and stuff like that. Um, and then when I broke my neck at the age of 19, um, I continued smoking for recreational, but didn't really the benefits of it, the stuff that it is good for after injury, which drinking water, you drink a lot of water, um, and eating gives you a good appetite. So those are the
Yeah.
good benefits that I didn't realize at the beginning of my injury that those were given that the marijuana was giving me until I finally realized that that's the good stuff. So it's definitely medicinal for me, and um, with spasticity, it does help too. Not as much as for like the eating and the drinking and something that's more medicinal,
Yeah.
benefit for me. But it does help with spasms, especially with eating with the uh, edibles. I mean, it definitely works with spasticity with the edibles. I can't even like transfer in bed if I eat too much. Uh, eat too much brownie, then yeah, I'd definitely sleeping in my chair or something. But I don't want to end up on the floor. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, has that ever been an issue where you just got like too big? Like, I can't transfer.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
I was like teeter tottering, sitting there going, "Do I want to try it? Do I want to?" Yeah, ended up
Um,
doing it.
I I've gotten to that point with drinking. I get like the spins when I drink too much, and I'll be like transferring onto my bed, feel like I'm gonna dive onto the floor or
Right.
something. So I've just been like, no, I'm not even gonna try it. I'm gonna just pass out of my chair tonight. But thankfully, that hasn't happened in a long time. So
One
I've never faced that with cannabis though. But I'm very uh, like sensitive with my edible usage. If I do
Yeah.
do edibles, I'm always really careful. There was one experience when I first started smoking cannabis where I took too much of an edible, and it was long. It was a long 12 hours. Let me just say that.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I don't know about that. Like that was wild. I was like, I think I'm just gonna stick to smoking if I do anything. But let me just, on that note, talk about my personal experience with cannabis. I'm a big proponent of cannabis, medicinal, recreational. I have a lot of personal experience in that. I hope they're okay. Me shouting this out, at least my pops. He's a medicinal cannabis user my entire life. Um, grown cannabis and used it personally for a lot of chronic pain that he deals with day in and day out. It's a big part of his life, and it's probably the best medicine he's found to help manage that. I would say that that's probably the two most common uses for individuals with spinal cord injury and cannabis is one, pain management and spasticity management. That's what I've found. Probably they have the most like physical effect. And personally, for me, it's probably what I use it for most of the time. I was a late bloomer. I didn't smoke cannabis my whole life growing up, not until I was like 22 years old. I was injured when I was 5. It's not that I judged it or stigmatized it or anything. I just didn't have a desire to. I was in college, one day kicking with a buddy who smoked, and he smoked me out, and I was like, "Oh snap! That's what this weed stuff is all about." I was like, "Hey, that's not bad." So I uh, started to smoke just recreationally with my buddies. It wasn't until probably another year or two after smoking that I realized the positive benefit it had on my body when I wasn't feeling good. I was having a really bad spazzy day. I smoked, and instantly it was like gone. Like I wasn't spazzing. My body was all relaxed and comfortable. I was like, oh shit. And similarly, chronic pain isn't something I've ever dealt with in my whole life until the last couple of years. Aging with my disability, I'd say like post 20 years post, like the last 5 years has been a wake up call in terms of the toll it's taken on my body, the current condition and state of certain, tough parts that get triggered a lot with really regular pain. I do not like the effect of narcos or like opioid-based painkillers. I've tried therapy, physical therapy, and exercises and other alternative means to manage it. But I would say, in terms of like just treating the pain, cannabis is certainly the best thing I've found that doesn't make it go away, but it makes me functional. It When my hands and my wrists are hurting so bad, like I can't do the stuff that I need to do or want to do, I'm able to, if I can just take the edge off with cannabis. Um, try to operate with a lot of self-awareness and like my cannabis usage. I just kind of like what Lizzie said. I do tolerance breaks all the time. Just try to give my body little breaks to make sure that I can operate without it if I, ever ended up not having access to it. But also just to keep myself measured. I honestly and truly believe like moderation is key for everything in life. Whatever that might be, whether it's food or exercise or sex or whatever it is. And I try to keep that in mind, with my cannabis consumption as well. But I'll be the first to tell you, like, I'm a pretty big pothead. I use cannabis daily, and I don't have any intention of stopping anytime soon because it is such a benefit to me in my daily life. So, yeah, I'm really think that weed has changed in the last decade specifically, like at least here in California and stuff. It's accessible in many different forms and many different varieties. I think the best thing one can do when considering using THC is do some research. Do a lot of research. Educate yourself. Make sure you're educated on how to dose yourself correctly, whether you know the positive side effects and the negative. I personally have been trying to do lower dose edibles more often because I'm worried about long-term respiratory effect. That's just my personal, opinion and choice. I try to balance, not smoke all the time, but also still find alternative means to use cannabis. I think low dose edibles are really great in that regard, but edibles can be tricky too. They can be a little bit more psychoactive. They can be a little bit more hard to dose, and also there's not very instant relief. Whereas if I smoke, my body's hurt me, I'll start to feel better.
Yeah,
Whereas
instant.
taking an edible, will take some time for it to kick in, for my body to digest the stuff to get into my bloodstream and kind of start to take its effect. So yeah, that's my experience with it, and we have obviously some fans of cannabis in the chat. I do want to shout out my mom's comment earlier. We were talking about energy. She says her go-to is B complex vitamins, and yes, do not forget to take your vitamin supplements, people. Super super important to keep your body healthy too. Thanks for that, Mama. Appreciate it.
Uh,
um, Shawn, did you have any questions or any particular thing? When you guys, I guess when you guys
Uh,
do cannabis, is it mostly smoking?
well, I was gonna say one quick thing, because so I have not done a tolerance break in forever. Like the last day I have not smoked, I was probably like those first few weeks of the hospital, 19 years ago. But for me, I don't smoke in the mornings. So like that's kind of my thing. Like I let myself, I don't smoke until like noon. So like I've been up for 6 hours plus stretching. I've eaten like I've kind of gone through. So like for me, I feel like that a little bit just gets my head clear. So then when I do first smoke in the day, like I feel like I feel it, and I can actually really by that time my body's ready. Like I don't know. Anyways, so that's my and I do somewhat limit it. I try not to go too heavy and hard. Like I'm not the wake up in the morning and light up a joint when I'm in bed type of dude. So I'm
I'm
just
the same
Is there
way.
anybody here that
I'm the
does wake
same.
and bake? It's all good if you do. Don't be afraid to say
Yeah,
it.
I don't wake and bake either. I'm more in the evening time. If I wake
Lizzie's not with us.
and bake,
Lizzie's
if
not
I wake
with
and
us.
bake, I won't get very much done. I'll spin circles and go outside, get in the van, and forget what I'm doing. Come back out. Yeah, forget everything in the house that I was supposed to take with me. Yeah, I'm bad at waking and baking.
How about you, Lizzie?
Yeah. I'm up at least an hour before the kids get up, so that's mom's time to shine before I gotta get
right.
them.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, you
Um,
got to you have to limit. You have to work with your schedule. Being a mom, you got to like work around. You know, you can't
My
be
window is open. I don't care what time it is. It's 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock. Let's go.
nice.
uh, if I'm kind of in the camp of Sean and Ken. I try not to utilize cannabis too much in the AM. Try to wait for the PM hours. Like afternoon, especially evening. Is usually best. I sometimes will wake and bake too. If it's a weekend or just like a day where I don't have anything going on, and I can, and it's cool certainly. But it can uh, not it can slow me down. I'll just be less productive. It doesn't stop me or necessarily inhibit me from being productive, but I don't feel like I'm as productive if like versus like if I'm being sober, just sipping on some coffee and trying to push through. But that is very dependent on the situation because if it's a bad pain day, if my body's having a hard time that
Yeah.
day, then I'm just as limited, maybe even more so by that versus if I could just take the edge off and still manage to be at least semi-productive versus not being able to do anything because my body's too fucked up which it's just again that balance that I think everybody has to find personally. Um, shit, my dad will get up and wake and bake early in the morning, and like be out doing working and like the most like productive person I know. And it's just because it takes the edge off and allows him to have that kind of productivity. So
Yeah. So
it's very
it's
dependent on the individual, and that's kind of true for cannabis in general. It affects everybody differently. There's really only one way to know how it affects you is that's to try it in a very, I think, always do a very low measured amount with somebody that maybe knows what they're doing. If you do decide to try it the first time, if you're lucky enough to live in a legal state where you can go to a dispensary, speaking to the individuals there, they're often very educated on microdosing, like reasonable doses, especially for somebody starting out. And, you know,
so
just like I said, educate yourself and also show smart, talk to people, like make sure you're doing the
we
right
actually
thing.
had a question from Jeff in the chat asking what our edible dosage is. He uses 10 milligrams per dose for him. So for me, like when I go to bed, I use 50 milligram gummies.
Ooh, ooh.
THC goddess said she uses 500 milligram edibles, and yeah, right on. Like I have friends that do full 500s.
Nope.
That shit's a lot,
Got
but
it.
More like 20, 30 milligrams for me.
I'm with Ken, like 25, 30, like that'll cook me. Like I'll be
Yeah,
nice and good and like I'll be chilling with that. If I go higher than 50, I get all googly, like giggly and stupid. Like I'll just be like, I'll just be like, no. I'll just have this big stupid grin on my face. And I'll just be giggling the whole time.
Uh,
Uh, but and similarly, if I did any higher than like 100, like if I did 500, I'd probably have a paranoid meltdown. Like I've done higher doses before, not meaning to, and I've just gotten so paranoid, so in my head, like such high anxiety about like how I'm feeling and what's going on, and just life in general. I'm just like, nope, nope, nope. The thing about cannabis though too is, whereas 25 is more comfortable for me and Ken, whereas Shawn is more comfortable with 50. Our tolerance is maybe different, and that's dependent
Absolutely.
on. Go
Because
ahead,
I'm
Lizzie.
like, I'm sitting comfortable at like 10, 20 milligrams, and Sean's over here at like 25. And I'm like, whoa.
yeah, I mean, everybody. When if I'm doing one during the day, like when we're like doing, sometimes when we do the abilities expos, I'll try to take a gummy before we start the expo because 6 hours in my chair all day, like I'm hurting by the end of the day because I haven't really smoked. Um, that usually like a 25 30 milligram edible is usually good. I have done the full 50 ring, and I mean, I'm not complaining about it. I'm cool with it. But like
I'll,
25 will work.
I'll do the full 52, but it's got to be at the end of the day. Like I got to be chilling. I got to be getting ready for bed. Because like at that point, I'm just gonna get real sleepy and want to just be comfy and lay down and pass out. So if I like was to take that early in the day, and I would just have to be like a bed day where I just be chilling like all day or whatever. But often I just don't really like that. I don't like that feeling too much. I like to be up. I like to be able to go out, get some sun, move around. Do stuff if I need to. Like if stuff comes up, I want to be able to pop out and still be social, still go out, have a good time, get what I need done. But again, time and place. I know my body very well. I know how things affect me very well just through my personal experience, and everyone's got to kind of learn that for themselves.
Yeah.
I always recommend low dose to start because you can always take more. You can't take less once you've taken it. Yeah, like there's no walking it back. If you took a fat edible, you could take a little nibble, and then if in an hour you're not, may want a little more, then that's cool. But you always want to be able to make that decision to do more versus, oh man, I wish I could uneat that. Like that doesn't work. Similar with smoking. I honestly, I feel like a little bit of a hypocrite saying this because I do use the cannabis vapes mostly. I mean, really it's super convenient. Those Stizzy pods and stuff, they're just so freaking easy and convenient to use. They don't smell, they don't stink in my apartment. It's really easy to like use around my, like in between my caregivers and stuff. My place doesn't smell like weed versus like if I just smoked a joint in here. I always try to be respectful because I have caregivers that come in and out very regularly that aren't necessarily cool or comfortable with walking into like a Rasta crib smelling like weed. uh, but um, I really am a strong proponent of cannabis flower versus like oil. Again, it's um, easier to just have a small dose. And anytime you smoke cannabis oil, it's a more concentrated form, and you're going to be getting a more intense high. It's also going to increase your tolerance at a higher rate, which is going to make it so that you require more cannabis to get the same amount of high. Um, Flower, it's natural. I'm really just a big proponent of all natural stuff. Get yourself a cannabis flower vape or something. That being said, I do smoke a lot of flower. Uh, I do use cannabis oil from time to time, though. Not from time to time, mostly actually. So yeah, and again, like I said, the reason is mostly out of convenience, just easy. How about you guys? Flower, oil.
I seen someone comment using smoking rosin. Yeah, that stuff is really strong. It has a really good clean taste.
Yeah,
It's strong.
yeah,
Uh,
rosin. And people, if
are
people don't know,
you
rosin is just a concentrated form of of THC. Like it's actually just from being heat pressed, and then
Right.
it,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it forms. So it's a natural way of extracting. But what about you,
Um,
Lizzie? Are you more flower or?
Yeah, I prefer flower. Um, I don't mind taking dabs, but no,
Nice, yeah.
I'd rather have the flower.
See, for me
that
personally, I can't take dabs on my own, so it's just hard for me to do them by myself. So I do when I'm with friends occasionally, but I do once like after dinner, my evening starts to smoke. I put wax on top of my flower bowls, so I'm like I do the the double like, so I do a little topper on there.
It's really harsh on my lungs, man. I take a hit of any kind of dab or oils, and it's really hard to breathe for a little bit after. But
yeah,
Oh,
um,
sometimes I get that.
it definitely does. It
yeah.
definitely does the
I
trick.
don't like that feeling. Full stop. Like that kills my high a little bit because instantly I'm just like I hate that feeling of gasping for breath. And I mean I've even hit a bong and like I'll get that too sometimes. I don't like it. It's not my
Yeah,
cup of tea because I can smoke or like vape flower and not cough at all and still end up like super baked, just as baked
See,
and like not have like gone through the discomfort or like whatever the shock you're also given to your soft tissue inside your lungs too. Like, it scares me. Mr. Wheels, I want to touch on a comment you said. Get some nurses that are cool with the Rasta smell. I feel that my number one nurse, my mama, is totally cool with the Rasta smell. I smoke a fat blunt the night before with the homies, and she comes through, helps me out with my care. It's all good. I do utilize a nursing agency though, where it's very professional. There's like RNs and LVNs and CNAs that come into my home a couple days a week and help me with my nursing care, bathing, dressing, things like that on the few days that I have that. Sometimes it changes too. If like the nurse calls out for whatever reason, they'll just send another agency nurse. At the end of the day, it always comes down to the individual. I just at the end of the day would rather be respectful. I don't want to create a bad name with my nursing agency. I don't want them to go back and tell the higher ups like, "Hey, this guy Tom, his place, there's weed everywhere. It smells. It's not very clean when I go in." I want to be respectful to them. I want them to do a good job of taking care of me, and a big part of that I think is being comfortable in the environment that they're working in. So that's why I do it. You can certainly find cool, chill nurses that don't give a fuck if it smells like weed. And I have had nurses like that in the past, and that's cool. But it isn't my situation and now. And at the end of the day, I'm just a lot more comfortable, showing them that respect, trying to keep everything clean and low key versus just having it out in the open.
no, I get it, dude. Yeah, I mean, you want to make everybody feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually a lot of times. Well, see, I'm getting spasms now. Maybe I should hit the vape. Um, I kind of make it a point like when I have nurses first start, like I'll point out like I'm sorry if it does smell at all like cannabis, like like it's here. I'm not going to use it while you're here, but just like kind of letting them know like it's around because you can smell it. Like it's, I mean, it's not that like a, and I have things that are out. I'm not hiding everything, you know, super away. Like it's hard for me to grab stuff with, like, I'm not going to put it way deep away. I need it somewhere I can get it.
Yeah.
uh,
And like
but
that's how it is for me. Like my packs is in a little drawer I can pull out anytime. My stizzy I can put anywhere. I can tuck it anywhere and it'll just be hidden and out of the way. Like it won't be seen. It doesn't smell or anything. So I could even use that like around when my nurses be there, and then I wouldn't even have to worry about that period. So again, everyone's situation is different. It's not so black and white. It's kind of gray. It's contextual situation. I'd say always just judge it for yourself. The big part of that is it makes me feel comfortable. That I'm not having judgment from outside people like, oh, look at this pothead, and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I
that's
wish there
your own
wasn't even
internal judgment, dude. You're doing that.
no, but that is my own internal judgment. You're absolutely right, dude. But that's why it is kind of a more personal decision. I'm afraid of people judging me, and again, that's just my own inner conflicts. But
You're
It's all good.
good.
It's all good either way. I'm not afraid to, at the same time, like, if my nurses ask if I smoke cannabis, I'm not gonna like lie and tell them I don't, because like, I'm open, I don't care. But yeah, I'm gonna just end it there. Talking about that. Well, we covered cannabis pretty well. The other big part of the show we want to talk about, we got a couple experts in the building. We want to talk about the psilocybin, some magic mushrooms. We've talked about mushrooms on the show a little bit in the past. I've talked about two experiences I've had with it. Not microdosing it. I took very much a macro dose in both instances, and had a very unpleasant time. The second time, I had to call up my girlfriend, like dead ass asleep in bed, like, "Yo, babe, I'm freaking out. I'm having a hard time. My muscles are spazzing. I don't know what to do. I need you to come over and save me." And she did. Like, I was like, "Oh my god!" But
Uh,
Lizzie's
that,
over here laughing at me.
Because I feel you on that. Like, I I wouldn't call it a Mac dose, but I had a lot of tops, and when I was home, my legs were sticking straight out, and I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. They were spasming like crazy. Nothing helped trying to get him down, and I'm just sitting in my chair laughing my ass off because my legs are just spazzing out like crazy. But I did exactly what you did.
And so, if anybody is like wondering what the hell are these guys talking about, that is one of the major side effects of psilocybin for individuals with spinal cord injuries is muscle spasticity. In my situation, I took 1,000 milligrams. I ate a gram the first time, and then the second time I did it, it was a quarter of that. I thought I was doing like a much smaller dose, but 250 milligrams is still, I think, a really large dose for psilocybin. When we're talking about microdosing, something like mushrooms, 5 or 10 milligrams, 15, 20 max, like that's considered a microdose in comparison to like a regular dose, which is, between like a gram. I don't know. Some people do like an 8. I think that's effing crazy. Like, I think that's a lot.
Oh,
But
pre-injury, I did, but that was able-bodied.
yeah.
point one to
Um,
three, point one to point three is like a good microdose.
okay.
Okay.
Maybe make it half a gram, like 0.5 would probably be like a heavy microdose.
Yeah.
But
So that's what I did, Ken, was I did 0.25. Like, I did a quarter gram. And I thought, oh, I don't know, like, it wasn't as intense as the first one. It didn't last as long, but it was still a long night. And my legs were stiff as a board. Like, they would not stop spazzing. And it was like, I mean, it was debilitating to the point where like I couldn't even transfer, and that was like what really scared me is I was having a hard time in my chair. I decided to get in bed, but then I got stuck in bed because I was like, "There's no fucking way I could get back in my chair. Like, I am, I'm a plank right now, and just constant
That's
spasm." And then my body overheated. I get super, super hot.
oh
Like,
wow.
I'm pouring cold water bottles on my body, just like, cool me down. But like, I don't cool down. Um, what is the point of mushrooms? That's a really great question, Angry Quad. We're going to talk a little bit about that right now. Obviously, there's a recreational point for some individuals to trip out, have a cool, trippy experience, yeah, trip out on mushrooms. Honestly, both my times were pretty paranoia inducing. I was getting some visuals, like maybe the walls and stuff weren't as clearly defined, if that makes sense. Like everything kind of pastel together a little bit. But I didn't really have an enlightening experience on it. And if anything else, it just scared the shit out of me. And I had a hard time. So that is one point. The other reason we're kind of talking about microdosing, psilocybin now is because there's actually a couple of studies currently going on. Well, there was one major study back in 2021 on using psilocybin. It's still a very controlled substance, Schedule One drug here in the U.S. It can only be tested in very specific um, scientific environments, with like DEA approval and stuff. So again, these tests are very small. Not a lot of people, are part of it, particularly spinal cord injured individuals. But what they were testing was increase in neuroplasticity. And basically, in layman's terms, that's increase in the connections between the axons at the ends of your nerves. Um, they found, and that's a big part of psilocybin, at least the body high is it's an increase in central nervous system activity. But part of that is actual, like, the neuroplasticity of the nerve cells is increased, meaning that the surface area of the axons is larger, and it promotes regeneration so that and this was all studies done not even on humans, it was done on mice, but they showed that after a single dose of psilocybin, there was a 10% increase in ner- nerve activity and neuroplasticity. And they repeated it, I think, throughout like 1 month, where they would like give regular microdoses, and they saw that same long-term effect, and it lasted up to a month after the last dose was given. So the theory is that the potentially medical benefit of it is sorry, you guys, are getting over a little respiratory cold. Um, is that increase for humans as well? So increase that neuroplasticity for our nerves that aren't functioning, promote nerve generation in the nerves in our spine that have been damaged, and potentially promote increased activity. And I've, at least in my experience, I was feeling things in sensing parts of my body that it was hard for me to understand and kind of recognize while I was super big, but afterwards, it was a trip. It was a trip. The way my body felt, kind of the increased awareness of like my lower extremities and parts of my body that I just have no feeling or sensation in. It was very interesting. Again, I wasn't microdosing over a long period of time, but it was interesting. Now I'm going to ask the experts. Lizzie, what is it like for you? Have you noticed anything in terms of greater awareness, sensation, anything like that, or is it mostly recreational for you?
No, right before I did it, I did like a little research, and then I came upon something that it said it was good because it helped rebuild your nerves, like you had said. But what I remember, like when I did it, like I was more self-aware of the parts of my body that I can't feel or that I haven't felt in like a really long time. So, and sensation wise, I would say yeah, like if I had like soft socks or like I guess really silky shorts on, like I was able to like feel those textures on my skin. Like
Interesting.
at the moment, it's like hard to be like, oh wow, like I can feel these things, but like afterwards, it's just like, oh my god, like it's been so long that just feeling those type of sensations, like it's mind blowing. But also like I feel like on an emotional scale, like I'm not saying it like you got to be in a good mental head space when you do that, but like it's I feel sometimes I can feel like it's a good emotional reset. Like if you just like in that funk or whatever.
Definitely emotional reset.
Yeah. Just like come back and just be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was,
Go ahead, Sean.
Well, I was gonna say, dude, the mental like the mental like aspects of it. There's a really interesting documentary series thing called "How to Change Your Mind" on Netflix, and it goes into each like psilocybin and acid somebody mentioned in the chat earlier and stuff, and just the different effects it can have psychoactively, like therapeutically and stuff. And yeah, like you're saying, Lizzie, like that's one of the effects that a lot of people, it will give like a mind reset. Like it's curing PTSD and depression and all kinds of things in people, just
Yeah.
from single use and stuff like that sometimes.
Well,
So
there's lots of
just
studies being done, particularly in that
lots, yeah.
route. Yeah, and it's not just psilocybin. There's lots of research. I found another very similar study, but it was about ketamine therapy in increasing neuroplasticity, but not in like your nerves, but in your neurons in your brain and between like the synapses and like the frontal cortex and different parts of your brain. And I don't know. There's lots of studies to show we don't understand the brain too much, but we know that the brain can get wired in a certain way if you go through serious trauma, especially longer term. You know, it can actually physically wire itself where you're kind of more prone to those kind of emotional states. Maybe, you know, like PTSD, you know, is very like linked to actual physical parts of your brain, you know, not being wired or firing the right way. These studies have been shown that it can do a reset um, on those parts of your brain. It can help your synapses and your neurons start to fire and connect in a different way. That I mean, physically can help you think differently. And again, these are I
Cognitive
can
function.
I can Ingrid Quad Study is interested in checking out these some of these studies. I can forward my links to Shawn and have him put them in the description below. These are just small studies being done. There is lots, I think, of benefit to this stuff, but still, it's like medicinal cannabis. You know, like we've been talking about medicinal cannabis for 60 years, and we're just finally starting to get to the point where you know, like there's real serious medical studies being done on large samples of people, and that just really isn't here yet for
Hey,
like
just
psilocybin.
a quick
Uh,
shout out note. It's 4:20 right now on the show, so I don't know
yeah.
if you guys want to hit your vape or do anything, but I'll go for
Anybody
one
wants to
just for
fire up? Now's the
the
time,
spirit,
baby.
for the spirit of the show.
All right.
I'm getting over a respiratory illness. I've been really trying to take care of my lungs while I recover, so I've been smoking cannabis, but I'll pop an edible after the show, probably. But Ken, what's
Yeah.
your experience with mushrooms? I know
So
that you microdose pretty regularly.
not too much regularly, but I do. I'm not a doctor, and mine is just from experience. Um,
Yeah,
but for me, it helped anxiety for the most part when I
yeah,
microdosed because
yeah.
like when you get on any kind of pain meds for a little bit and you get off them, then you're gonna have side effects of um, like anxiety and just all kinds of horrible side effects. But it helped with the anxiety. It helped with the like what's that called when you crave it when you're craving the pain meds. It helped with
Uh-huh.
that the cravings. So
Yeah.
it helped with that big time. And for uh, other experience, like if I helped out a friend, she was very depressed, and she's had depression for many years. Like almost the whole time I've known her, she's been like really bad depression, suicidal, you know. And
Uh,
I gave her a little microdose and to try it out, and she didn't think of anything of it. She just tried it out, and then she said she felt better. A few months, I think a month or so later, she contacted me and said, "You know what? I felt suicidal for I don't know how many years, and for some reason, after microdosing, I don't even have that thought in my brain. Like that's not even the thought I have anymore. Like
yeah.
my part is gone. Like she didn't even realize it until like a month later. Then she thought, whoa." I don't even have that thought in my brain anymore. You know what I mean? It was just totally gone. And I thought that was a really good thing for her to not have that inner, experience
Yeah.
that anymore. And so that's what kind of draw me more towards the beneficial of microdosing was basically that that
Yeah.
big stepping stone for her. I thought that was incredible. But
That was what the study also noted outside of the increased neuroplasticity, which I thought was like an interesting part that I read was it specifically talked about how the participants in the study increased a very significant change in mindset in regards to their disability, in regards to their rehab and the therapy and the obstacles that they're facing, and that it seemed to help shift their perspective to those for those who were really struggling with
yeah,
depression and really struggling with just the negative elements and side effects to a chronic condition like this. But it was able to help them do a bit of a brain reset in that look at it from a different perspective, get reinvigorated, get motivated to you know see what they could do about it versus could just kind of sitting and deteriorating or not you know, doing, having necessarily the motivation to, you know, kind of push yourself to get
right,
healthy, stay healthy, to do the necessary rehab, to get out and get active, to realize that I think a lot of us have realized how much of a life there is still left to live, even after a trauma like spinal cord injury, because, it's
right.
just as much as anybody else. But that could be very difficult to see, especially after going through months and months of trauma after a serious injury like that. But it really is for a lot of people. It's the initial trauma, and then it's months and months and years of obstacles, additional trauma. Learning how to live again, learning how to overcome and reprogram every element of their life to living with a disability, and getting over the mental hurdle of that. I think is just very, very hard. Again, there is some studies to support positive uh, mental state changes. Um, I'm sure there are
Your
probably reports of
your mom actually in the chat mentioned, please do not do this alone. Like advise someone who has experience with it. And yeah, that's smart. And she even says psychologists can assist or recommend small group
yeah,
setting sessions. Yeah. So I mean, if
particularly
you
ketamine therapy and things like that for changing, helping serious depression, other similar PTSD and things associated with stuff like that. There are doctors and very clinical um, like methods and ways to go about it that is fully monitored by people who spend their whole lives studying this and make sure that it isn't negative for you, that you're only getting the positive effects. And a big part of that is just like what she said, not doing it alone, speaking to a psychologist, making sure you're going about this the right way, not just getting some mushrooms and taking it at home. But I don't know, psilocybin is used pretty much exclusively like recreationally by people at home. Um, I just say be very, very, very careful if you do decide to do it, especially as a quad or para, any kind of spinal cord injury, because
it's
the
going to
negative
make
side,
pretty much everything under your injury spasm pretty
yeah.
hard for the most part.
Yeah.
Um, same with LSD, except more
I
extreme.
think that's what I've heard too. I did actually meet an older guy that like was injured way back in the '80s, and he's talking about taking LSD all the time back then. And yeah, he just said his legs go crazy. Same as our friend we met in Phoenix. That dude, that para dude, he was just hanging out, chilling with us on a bunch of mushrooms, legs jumping everywhere. But he was cool. I mean, he was sweating his ass off. but he was he was good.
That's what you
We,
need. Take some edibles to calm the spasms down when you're on mushrooms.
that was my thought when I was like tripping out and having a really hard time with crazy spasms. I tried to smoke, I tried to do edibles, I tried everything under the sun. And the only thing that really helped me was time. It was like an 8, 12 hour wait before my body
Yeah.
kind of chilled out. And I would say that, I don't know, I had a really unique feeling afterwards. My body was so calm. I didn't feel like I had any kind of tension, spasticity, or anything for like the next 48 hours. Like, I mean, seriously, like my legs were so chill. Like, I pick them up and they don't fight me or nothing. They're just like super cool. And I attribute that to like, they're so spazzed out. Like, there's no spasms left. Like, they're just so like spazzed out. Like, I don't know. I'm sure there's like probably a medical explanation as to that, but I don't think I'm gonna try mushrooms again. If I ever do, it'll probably be in like a 5, 10 milligram dosage, and like that's all I would do. I have no interest or inclination to do a higher dose, at least not outside of like a clinically controlled setting with like medical professionals around that could potentially, assist me if I wasn't feeling good. Because I don't know, those two experiences I had were more than enough for me to not want to dabble too much into it. But that's just me.
Everybody, everybody's different. Everybody's experiences are different. I've never had any kind of bad experience on mushrooms or acid. I haven't done acid after my injury, but that was all like when I was a kid, in school and going to concerts and stuff like that. But yeah, I've never really had a bad episode on any kind of psychedelics. I've eaten a lot when I was a kid, a lot or younger. I've eaten a lot, partying and
Yeah.
stuff like that, but never had
Yeah,
anything
Uh,
bad.
before my injury, I did some, and since I've tried it twice, like Tom, and both my experiences were a little bit rough. Um, and yeah, I pretty much got stuck in that plank position. My body was completely laid out. I could
Yeah,
not move. I could not transfer, um, and I just had to wait it out for the most part.
that's
And the
about the only
scary part
bad.
was I had kind of like vertigo after the second time. Every time I would lean in certain directions, and that scared me even more. I thought I like damaged my brain or something. So I'm out. It
Oh,
scares me.
that would scare the shit out of me. And again, this show isn't to necessarily promote go out and try mushrooms. It's the one,
Yeah.
and like maybe even the opposite, warn against the side effects. Tread carefully and talk about specifically like microdosing and the potential benefits. I do think the studies are absolutely amazing. I can see how my body gets so much extra activity. Like, I can feel it. Like, I can feel it throughout my whole body. I can feel my nerves firing. Not under my control, but still, it's like such a unique, wild sensation to experience after being paralyzed for so long. Like, I could see where that link would be made to, if you could find a low dose to maybe cause that nerve stimulation and increase regeneration in a measured amount that doesn't cause debilitating side effects like too much spasticity or my body overheating and stuff like that, then hell yeah, but that's just going to be time. Whether or not more studies come out, more time is taken to study those particular things, and I'm totally not opposed to any of it. In fact, I'm a big promoter of it, but yeah, I definitely just want to see the receipts of some studies and talk to some other people about their experience with it before I go diving into something like that. And as far as other drugs, I don't know. It's a big question we honestly get asked a lot. Like, I get asked a lot as a quad and stuff. Yo, you ever do mushrooms? You ever try acid or anything like that? And I was just sharing my experience, like as I've experienced. But as far as other substances, um, I don't plan on doing anything outside campus because I'm just too worried about how it affect my body, like short term, long term. Um, yeah.
So
So
I actually just throw it out there. Cause after watching that How to Change Your Mind little docu series, I am curious. I'm too afraid to try any of the the psychedelic, like the acid mushrooms or anything, but I am curious on trying to microdose MDMA. And because some of the, like, honestly, I deal with anxiety and depression and things like that I don't talk about a lot, but like, yo, if I can, like, I'm like legitimately trying to do it for like a therapeutic use. And we'll see. I don't know. If I try it, I'll let you guys know. I
I mean,
actually just heard, I just had somebody tell me that they could get some pure MDMA. So we'll see. I may,
allegedly,
allegedly.
allegedly.
Just not get a good hit or what?
What's up?
Huh?
I said, how would you microdose? Just not get a good hit? I mean,
I would just, because I think it comes in like little capsule things. I would just take that and put it into smaller dose, dude. Like I'd take like a fifth of it, a quarter of it, whatever the standard dose would be.
Like a
And just try.
microdose would probably be more like a tenth or like 100th of a substance like that. TBH. Like,
Probably. Yeah.
and I'm not telling you what to do or not to do it. Like if my sexy lady was like, "Hey, I got this little dose of MDMA. You want to try it out, hang out, like have a good time?" Fuck yeah, dude. Like I'm not gonna lie to you, I'd probably do it. But yeah, give it some serious thought consideration before I did. And in the chat, DMT, never, 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 never. I
So
don't
that's
think
what.
that
No, yeah, never. But that dude that we met in Phoenix is because. So just, I think Tom's told the story a couple times on here. When we were at the expo, like, we try to hang out, meet people. Tom met this dude, seemed cool, invited him over to come smoke with
was
us.
cool. That seemed cool.
I
Was
mean, he
cool.
was super cool. Yeah, he was super cool dude. Cool dude. Para, newer injury, came to hang out. We are gonna like smoke blunts and chill, but he was just sweating and legs jumping when he pulled up, and we
It's
are like, "Yo, what's
95
up, dude?"
degrees. It's
Yeah, it's
95
95
degrees.
degrees out there, but he's sweating because of like he ate an eighth of mushrooms before he got there. like,
damn.
and then when he got there, he was eating a chocolate bar of mushrooms that somebody there had and gave him, or like he bought while he was there, and so he ate more while he was there, and was just like. But he also was talking about how he regularly does DMT, and that's his normal thing. So this dude was on another level, and
Yeah.
I don't know. Allegedly, he was a little wild, but he was cool. He
What
was
do
a nice
you
dude.
what do you need
Friends
for
hung out.
DMT
We
in your
smoked.
court? You need a magic frog. You need a magic frog that like has these venom glands, and you dehydrate that. You get a little powder, and then you smoke it or you vaporize it. Now, where you find those magic frogs, how you extract it, how you do that process, I do not know. I would definitely be real careful if you decide to do something like DMT, because I just know the psychoactive effects could be life changing, life altering for sure. Um, the fact that this
Yeah, be
guy did it
careful.
regularly, it kind of scared the shit out of me. The fact that he was even on an eighth of mushrooms while he was hanging out with us, like I was tripping out because he was spazzing so bad. He was profusely sweating. I thought the guy was going to get dysreflexic or something. I thought we were going to need to get him to like a cool room, whatever. But yo, that guy sat out there in the warm weather for like 4 hours, just chilling, like spazzing and vibing and having a great conversation,
Hey, we were
high
smoking
on
blunts. I mean, it
you
was all
know,
good.
everybody is different. We talk about our experiences to just educate through our own personal experiences. This is not based in medical fact or anything. This is just very much our own personal experiences. So this isn't necessarily to promote, but to caution and warn against the potential negative side effects. There are definitely some potential positive benefits too, which aren't to be ignored or taken lightly, but just be very aware of the other side of it as well. And as far as cannabis goes, I really think everybody should try it and give it a go if they haven't. If it's not for them, cool. But cannabis, it doesn't have a long-term lasting effect. There's no hangover. I really advise, if you do decide to go the edible route, smoking's not your thing. You deal with chronic pain, you deal with neuropathy, you deal with lack of appetite. That's a huge benefit to, someone very close to me in my life who struggles with nausea and like low appetite on a daily basis, but it allows her to, get a good appetite, maintain her body weight, a good healthy weight, and stay healthy like that. Uh, there's just lots and lots of benefits to cannabis, and there's really safe, healthy ways to do it nowadays. It's very studied, it's very researched. Even anything sold at like a licensed dispensary is tested for chemicals and stuff. You can just easily these days make sure you're doing the right stuff, you're doing it at the right dose, and you're not going to put yourself in a uncomfortable situation. And the beautiful thing about cannabis too is even if you do get into an uncomfortable situation, it's not going to last long. It's not going to end your life. It's not going to, change your brain or mess you up to the point where you're never, going to be the same again.
You
I would
just need a
always,
good nap.
yeah, you just
Yeah.
take a good nap and,
Maybe some
uh,
cookies, something to munch.
yeah, you wake up with some real serious munchies. Don't go taking 1,000 milligrams if you never smoked before. Don't go
Do
taking
not
50
do that.
Yeah.
5 or 10. I really recommend honestly vaporizing it or smoking it before anything. If you're okay with, inhaling something that's not oxygen and nitrogen and CO2. So yeah, just lead with caution. We are big promoters of cannabis here at Live to Roll, and are firm believers. I think all of us who are part of the fam that it has much more of a positive benefit than potential negative. As long as you're safe and healthy with your usage, and are self-aware while you use it as well. Don't be taking 50 dabs a day. Yeah, obviously that's probably not going to be good for you. Like.
Yeah, use
Like,
moderation.
that's your body, but you do you. Like, I'm not here to tell you like what to do, but just be aware. That might not be good for you long
It's
term.
all in moderation.
Yeah, for sure. And let's just, before we do wrap up here, and I know our sponsors are okay with all our talk, so I just want to thank our sponsors for letting us do everything we do here on the show.
Yep.
Thank you, Mobility Professionals. Mobility Professionals is a mobility specialist in Southern California, so if you're looking for a chair, commode, standing frame, anything like that, give them a call. They have awesome people working there. They support the community. They help out with all kinds of stuff, not just with us. They're just amazing people. And then Urology Professionals is their urological sister company, and they're nationwide. So if you need catheters, they can hook you up anywhere in the country. They take most insurances, so give them a call. They can help you out with all that stuff. They have really good customer service, really good people, like I said. They're just great, awesome supporters of everything we do and the disability community. So thank you guys. And thanks for letting us talk about whatever we got to talk about in the show, like cannabis and microdosing and all that stuff. That's why it's awesome to have sponsors like that.
I also really want to thank our guests today, Lizzie and Ken. You guys are
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you guys.
We appreciate you.
No problem. Yep.
Yeah, no, I think it's just so valuable to hear individuals' personal experiences. Honestly, like I've been thinking about what we're going to talk about all day long today. I hadn't thought about the appetite part of cannabis too, and how beneficial that is for a lot of people dealing with cancer treatments, just other side effects of disabilities and conditions that affect your appetite and stuff. And so your guys' perspectives, your knowledge, your experiences with it, I think is just hugely, hugely beneficial. I know to me, to Shawn, and to a lot of people listening. So I just want to give a big thank you again for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
And Angry Quad, how you guys the Shatter? Shatter again is concentrated cannabis. Don't mess with dabs.
So I usually don't get shattered personally because it's hard for me to use as a quad. I get crumble and drier concentrates, just on a personal note for you guys.
And I really appreciate everybody in the chat too. We've had a great chat today. Angry Quad, Erica, THC Goddess, Mr. Wheels, Doom, Jaybird, everybody, Jeff,
Yeah,
everyone who's been just hanging out with us, sharing your guys' experience, asking questions, sharing your knowledge with us. We really, really appreciate it too. And just really love and appreciate the support.
yeah, you guys. Thank you all for supporting, watching, and yeah, thank you guys again for everything. We'll see you guys next week. Oh, forgot to support Tom. You're gonna be on tomorrow for
Yeah.
gaming. Real quick, So Tom's on tomorrow for gaming, you guys. 5 p.m. doing some adaptive gaming, and then on Thursday we got the women's show, and it's the normal. It's got the Nikki and Ashley, all the and Maya and everybody on. So it's on 420. I don't know what they're gonna do exactly, but it should be fun. Next week we got Rolling Over the Hill with the old guys. So tune in, you guys. Whoops, hit it on accident on there. But all right, thanks for watching, everybody. Live to roll. We'll see you next week.
Live to roll, everybody.